There are things on Earth that people were never meant to see, things that are hard to understand. This is a list of 15 of those things, and I can promise you, by the time we reach number 1, the way you see our world will have completely changed. Here are 15 shocking things humans were never meant to see. Number 15. The exploding craters of Siberia. One day the ground is flat. The next day there's a hole the size of a football field where the ground used to be. No warning, no earthquake, no meteor, just a sudden violent explosion from underneath the Siberian tundra. This crater was hundreds of feet wide, and it was left behind, and this started happening on Russia's Yamal Peninsula in 2013. And since then, more than 20 of them have appeared, each one leaving scientists scrambling for explanations and locals genuinely wondering what the hell is happening beneath their feet. Well, here's what actually is going on. Beneath the surface of Siberia is one of the largest reserves of natural gas on the planet, trapped in a frozen layer of permafrost. It's been locked solid for up to 40,000 years. As global temperatures continue to rise, the permafrost is warming and weakening, and in certain conditions unique to this region, the meltwater will migrate downward through the layers, building up pressure against the pockets of crystallized methane deep underground. When that pressure exceeds what the overlying ground can hold, it doesn't slowly leak. It explodes. The ground will inflate like a balloon, cracks, and then erupts, blasting soil, ice, and methane hundreds of feet into the air and leaving behind a massive, perfectly shaped crater. Now, these craters are only found here, nowhere else in the Arctic, because of a very specific combination of geology that doesn't exist anywhere else. But as warming continues, researchers do warn that the conditions creating them are becoming less rare, and the methane released in each explosion is up to 80 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Humans were really never supposed to see this, because this was never supposed to happen. Drop a comment below. Which of these 15 do you think is going to be the most insane? Keep watching, because it only gets stranger from here. Number 14. Bioluminescent plankton. You're standing on a warm beach at night, completely dark, and then a wave breaks at your feet, and the foam glows electric blue. You reach into the water and pull your hand back, trailing light. Every movement sends blue sparks drifting through the dark water around you. The ocean is lit from within as if it's somehow alive. Well, it is alive. That's exactly the point. What you're seeing is bioluminescence, light produced by living organisms through chemical reactions inside them. The organisms responsible are mostly dinoflagellates, single-celled microscopic plankton that exist in oceans all over the world. Each cell is invisible to the naked eye, but when millions concentrate in warm coastal water and something disturbs them, a wave, a fish, a human hand, even a strong current, they flash. Each flash lasts only 1/10 of a second, but when enough flash simultaneously, the result is visible across an entire coastline. The chemistry is elegant. Inside each cell, a molecule called luciferin reacts with an enzyme called luciferase. When mechanical stress hits the cell's membrane, the reaction releases not heat, but blue light, cool green-blue light, that travels well through seawater. It happens in under 20 milliseconds, one of the fastest cellular processes known. This organism rebuilds its luciferin supply every day, ready for the next night. So why do they do it? The leading theory is the burglar alarm hypothesis. When a small predator like a copepod tries to eat a dinoflagellate, the flash attracts a larger predator that eats the copepod instead. The plankton can't fight back, so it calls for backup. The glow you see from shore is, in a very real sense, millions of microscopic organisms screaming for help. The most dramatic displays happen during blooms, when conditions cause the population to explode. In some bays, the entire water surface glows for weeks. It's been documented since ancient times. Sailors wrote about burning seas and fire in the water for centuries before anyone understood what they were seeing. Number 13. The Christmas Island crab migration. There's a small Australian territory in the Indian Ocean where every year around October or November, the ground disappears. Not metaphorically. Tens of millions of bright red crabs march simultaneously from the forest to the coast. Roads vanish beneath them. Beaches turn crimson. The whole island, roughly the size of Washington, D.C., becomes a living carpet of crabs. This is the Christmas Island red crab migration, and even knowing what it is, it's extraordinarily hard to believe. The island hosts an estimated 50 million adult red crabs, hidden in rainforest burrows most of the year. Then, with the first significant rainfall of the wet season, they all emerge at once and move toward the ocean. Males first, females behind, climbing over everything. The timing is precise. They spawn just before dawn on a receding high tide during the last quarter of the moon. Each female carries up to 100,000 eggs, and releases them at exactly the right moment. When conditions are good, baby crabs emerge from the water in waves, millions barely 5 millimeters wide, marching inland to spend their first 3 years hidden. Sir David Attenborough called this one of the greatest moments he ever filmed. Humans were never supposed to see this simply because Christmas Island is one of the most remote territories. Most people have never heard of it. For most of the planet's history, this migration happened in total isolation, millions of creatures running one of nature's most precise spectacles, with no audience at all. Number 12. The Strid, Yorkshire, England. It looks like a small, pretty stream maybe 2 meters wide, running through a wooded gorge near Bolton Priory in North Yorkshire. The kind you could step across on a summer day. It looks completely harmless, but according to local records, every single person who has ever fallen into it has died. Not most, all of them. The Strid is a section of the River Wharfe, a substantial river about 30 feet wide upstream. At the Strid, terrain forces the river through an impossibly narrow crack in limestone. The river doesn't thin out. It turns sideways. It goes from 30 feet wide to a few feet wide, but potentially 65 meters deep, moving at enormous speed through underwater caves and overhangs, with powerful vortices that pull objects against the walls. The surface looks calm because the violence is hidden. Both banks are severely undercut. The narrow gap you see is an illusion. Beneath them lies the rest of the river, moving fast in every direction. Anyone who falls in is pulled under into the cave system. In many cases, bodies are never recovered. In 1998, a couple died here on the second day of their honeymoon after the river rose 5 feet in under a minute. The man's body was found 10 miles downstream 6 weeks later. William Wordsworth wrote a poem about a boy who died here in 1154. The warning signs today simply say, "The Strid is dangerous and has claimed lives. Please stand well back." Nobody knows how many people have died. Records have never been kept. Number 11. The event horizon of a black hole. Every physical object in the universe has a point of no return. For a black hole, that point is the event horizon. Cross it, and you're gone. No signal, no light, no information can ever escape. What happens if you fall in depends on the black hole. For a small stellar mass black hole, the difference in gravity between your head and feet would stretch you into a thin strand of matter long before you reach the horizon. Stephen Hawking called it spaghettification. It is not survivable. For a supermassive black hole like the one at our galaxy's center with 4 million times the sun's mass, things are stranger. The event horizon is so large that tidal forces at its boundary are mild. A person falling in would feel nothing special crossing it. No heat, no alarm, yet from the outside, that person would appear to slow down, redden, and fade away, frozen at the horizon, never quite crossing it over infinite time. Inside, everything leads toward the singularity, a point of infinite density where physics completely breaks down. What happens there is unknown. Our mathematics produces nonsense, meaning the universe is doing something we have no language to describe. In April 2019, the Event Horizon Telescope captured the first actual photograph of a black hole's shadow. The ring of light bending around the event horizon of the galaxy M87, 55 million light-years away. It was blurry and small, but it was one of the most extraordinary images in history. The first time humanity saw the edge of a place it was never supposed to reach. Number 10. The Oklo Natural Nuclear Reactor in Africa. In 1972, technicians at a French uranium processing plant noticed something impossible. Ore from a mine in Gabon, West Africa, was missing a small amount of uranium-235, about 0.3% less than expected. But uranium isotope ratios don't vary naturally. The only way to lose uranium-235 is through nuclear fission. This ore had already been through a nuclear reaction, yet no human-built reactor existed there. What followed was an extraordinary discovery. Investigations at Oklo revealed that about 1.7 to 1.8 billion years ago, natural conditions had triggered self-sustaining nuclear chain reactions underground, not once, but at least 16 times across multiple sites. The Earth had built its own nuclear reactors and run them for hundreds of thousands of years. The conditions were precise. 2 billion years ago, uranium-235 was far more abundant, about 3% of natural uranium, similar to modern reactor enrichment. Groundwater acted as a natural neutron moderator. When the reaction heated up, the water boiled away, slowing or stopping it. Then water returned, and the cycle pulsed on and off in roughly 3-hour cycles, automatically self-regulating for ages. A natural reactor with a built-in safety system that humanity didn't invent until the 20th century. This cannot happen naturally today. Uranium-235 levels have decayed too low. It was a one-time window, open for a few 100,000 years about 2 billion years ago, conditions that will never align again. 2 billion years before Enrico Fermi's team activated the first human-made reactor in 1942, the Earth had already done it, and the radioactive waste from those ancient reactions never migrated more than a few meters from where it was produced. Nature contained its nuclear waste better than we have managed to contain ours. Number 9. The Moval Cave, Romania. In 1986, a Romanian geologist drilling near Mangalia broke into an empty space 6 meters down. He lowered himself in and found a sealed cave completely cut off from the surface. Dark, the air thick with hydrogen sulfide, and almost no oxygen, covering the walls and an underground lake below. Life everywhere. Thick, writhing, completely alien life. This cave had been sealed for 5.5 million years. Moval Cave, near Romania's Black Sea coast, is one of Earth's most extraordinary places. A sealed ecosystem with no sunlight, no surface water, no organic material from above, just toxic gases, and a sulfur-rich lake, yet life evolved inside for millions of years, entirely isolated. Instead of photosynthesis, bacteria here run on chemosynthesis, oxidizing hydrogen sulfide to produce organic material, the same process as deep-sea vents. Moval was the first land-based chemosynthetic ecosystem ever found. In the 38 years since discovery, scientists have identified 57 species, 37 found nowhere else. Blind spiders, eyeless leeches, the only cave-adapted water scorpion known to science, and a venomous centipede named Cryptopole or Rex King of the cave, discovered in 2020. Creatures evolving in isolation since before the first human ancestor walked upright. Only a few dozen researchers have ever entered. Access is strictly controlled, the entrance is sealed, and the air would sicken most people within minutes. Visits last hours. What they study is a working model of early Earth, a closed system running on chemical instead of solar energy, producing life where life shouldn't exist. NASA has studied it as an analog for alien life. The cave sealed before the Mediterranean Sea existed in its current form. Whatever lives there has been alive longer than almost anything else on Earth still moving. Number 8. The Dragon's Breath Cave in Namibia. In the middle of Namibia's Kalahari Desert, there's a small, unremarkable hole in the ground, just a narrow crack in a dolomite outcrop. You'd walk right past it, but climb down with ropes through a series of drops and narrow passages, descending about 60 meters, and you'll find a lake. Not a puddle, a lake so vast its far shore vanishes into darkness. This is Dragon's Breath Cave, home to the largest non-glacial underground lake on Earth. Its name comes from the warm, humid air that rushes out when barometric pressure drops, condensing into a misty breath in the dry air. Local explorers who first found it in 1986 felt that breath before they ever saw the water below. The lake covers nearly 3 acres, about the size of 3 football fields. For 33 years, no one had mapped its full depth. Human divers could only reach about 130 meters. In 2019, an AI-powered drone called Sunfish mapped the rest, revealing a depth of 205 meters, far deeper than any diver could reach. The water is extremely clear. No sunlight means no algae, no sediment stirred by waves, and a stable 25 degrees Celsius year-round. Standing in the dark, the water below is transparent for tens of meters, then fades into nothing, an abyss under a desert that nobody knew existed until 40 years ago. The cave sits on private land, closed to the public. Only specialist teams with proper equipment can enter, descending ropes through vertical shafts before reaching the water. The full picture of what lives down there is still incomplete. This is one of the world's great hidden places, sitting beneath one of the driest deserts, just breathing quietly into the air. Number 7. The solar surface up close. Most people picture the sun as a calm yellow circle. That image is so wrong, it's almost funny. The sun's surface isn't calm or even a surface. It's a churning plasma ocean constantly tearing itself apart, erupting in explosions that would swallow Earth whole. Only recently, with space-based observatories and NASA's Parker Solar Probe launched in 2018 to get closer than any spacecraft in history, have humans truly seen it. What they saw changed everything. Images from Parker and the ESA Solar Orbiter revealed campfires, tiny solar flares happening everywhere at once. Individually small by solar standards, each is still enormous. Together, they may solve a decades-old puzzle. Why is the sun's corona, its outer atmosphere, actually hotter than the surface below? Physics says the fire should be hottest at the source, but the corona reaches millions of degrees, while the surface sits at roughly 5,500 degrees Celsius. The campfire hypothesis, constant small flares injecting energy outward, is now a leading explanation. Then there are the real solar flares, erupting with the force of billions of hydrogen bombs, hurling plasma millions of miles into space. Some aim at Earth, creating auroras or, occasionally, disrupting satellites, power grids, and GPS across continents. The 1989 Quebec blackout, leaving 6 million people powerless for 9 hours, was caused by a solar storm. The 1859 Carrington event, the largest geomagnetic storm on record, would cripple modern infrastructure if it happened today. Parker has flown within 9 million kilometers of the sun's surface, enduring 1,400 degrees Celsius on its heat shield, while instruments inside stay at room temperature. It dipped into the outer corona, the first spacecraft to touch what it was sent to study. The images show roiling plasma structures the size of continents, magnetic fields curling and snapping, rivers of charged gas flowing at hundreds of kilometers per second, a surface in constant catastrophic motion. Humans were never meant to see this, not because it was forbidden, but because it was impossible. Now that we can, we realize we understood far less than we thought. Number 6. The Tunguska Event Site. On the morning of June 30, 1908, at 7:17, the sky above a remote stretch of Siberian forest split in two. A column of fire appeared above the trees. The temperature spiked so fast that a man 65 kilometers away said it felt like his shirt was on fire. Then the shockwave hit, shattering windows hundreds of miles away, knocking people off their feet, and registering on seismographs in Western Europe. Somewhere between 5 and 10 kilometers above the ground, something exploded with a force of about 15 megatons of TNT, 1,000 times the power of the Hiroshima bomb. Over 2,000 square kilometers of forest were flattened, 80 million trees all knocked down, pointed away from a single point above like spokes from a hub. Yet when scientists finally reached the site 19 years later, due to remoteness and the chaos of war and revolution, they found no crater, no meteorite, no physical object. This is the Tunguska event, the largest impact in recorded human history, and no fragment of whatever caused it has ever been recovered. The leading explanation is that a rocky asteroid about 50 to 60 meters wide entered the atmosphere at 27 kilometers per second. The heat of compression caused it to disintegrate in mid-air before touching the ground, leaving no crater. The object turned to vapor and dust. Because the region was so sparse, casualties were minimal, perhaps 2 or 3 deaths and hundreds of reindeer. If the same object had struck London, it would have destroyed everything inside the M25 and killed millions. An event of this scale happens roughly once every few centuries, which means one is coming. We just don't know when or where. The Tunguska site still stands scarred, its regenerated forest studied for strange patterns. This is a reminder that the biggest explosion in recorded history happened on a Tuesday morning in an empty forest, and most of the world didn't find out for years. Number 5. The Mirny Diamond Mine in Russia. From the air, it looks like someone deleted a piece of Siberia. A perfect enormous hole 1,200 meters wide and 500 meters deep punched into the landscape of eastern Russia, surrounded on all sides by a small town that looked absolutely tiny next to it. And that's exactly what it is. It's a hole. It's one of the biggest holes humans have ever dug. The Mir mine in Mirny in eastern Siberia was the Soviet Union's first diamond mine, discovered in 1955 by a team of geologists who found traces of kimberlite, that's the volcanic rock that diamonds form in the frozen ground. Getting the mine operational required some of the most extreme engineering in history. The Siberian winter lasts 7 months. Temps drop to minus 60 degrees Celsius, and car tires will shatter at those temperatures. Steel will crack, and oil will freeze solid. Workers had to use jet engines, literally jet engines pointed at the frozen ground, to thaw the permafrost enough to dig. By the 1960s, the mine was producing over 10 million carats of diamonds per year. More than 20% of those were gem-quality stones, a proportion so high and so consistent that it alarmed De Beers, the company that controlled the global diamond market at the time. They demanded a tour to understand how the Soviets were producing so many diamonds. Russia stalled for 6 years before granting permission, then delayed the visiting team further until their visas were almost expired. The De Beers delegation got exactly 20 minutes inside before they had to leave. This mine produced diamonds for 44 years before open pit operation shut down in 2001. The hole it left behind is now so large and so deep that the airspace above it is restricted. Helicopters are banned because the thermal dynamics of the pit create an unpredictable air pressure change that have reportedly caused aircraft to lose lift and nearly plunge in. Whether confirmed accidents have happened there is disputed though, but the ban is real. Number 4. The Deep Ocean Midnight Zone. Below about 1,000 meters, the last traces of sunlight disappear completely, not dimly, not filtered, just gone. The water above absorbs every photon. What remains is a darkness so total and vast, it makes a dark room feel laughable. This is the midnight zone, the bathypelagic layer from 1,000 to 4,000 meters deep, covering more of Earth's livable space than any other environment. The creatures that evolved here weren't adapted to darkness. They were born in it, built by it over hundreds of millions of years into something from another world. The anglerfish is the most famous, a spherical, slack-jawed creature with a bioluminescent lure dangling from its forehead. It floats motionless, waving its light until something curious comes close enough to be swallowed whole. Its teeth point inward, its stomach expands to fit prey larger than itself, and its skin absorbs up to 99% of ambient light to stay invisible. About 76% of deep ocean creatures produce bioluminescence, not as decoration, but as weapons, lures, communication, or camouflage. Some squirt glowing mucus at predators. Some use light to match the faint glow from above, casting no silhouette. Most of this world has never been filmed. The deep ocean is so vast, and reaching it so difficult, that after decades of exploration, scientists have directly observed less than 0.001% of the ocean floor. Every expedition returns with new species. Every descent finds things not predicted. The midnight zone was here for hundreds of millions of years before us, and it will be here long after. Number 3. The elephant's foot of Chernobyl. There's an object sitting in the basement of reactor number 4 at Chernobyl that at the moment it was discovered, it would have killed any human being who walked into the same room in under 2 minutes. It was found in December 1986, 8 months after the explosion. A team of engineers and scientists were trying to map the damage beneath the reactor when one of them crawled through a narrow passage and found himself facing something he had never before seen. A large black solidified mass sitting in the corner of a maintenance corridor, emitting heat and radiation so intense that the sensors around it instantly maxed out. They called it the elephant's foot because of its wrinkled, folded texture on the surface. What it actually is corium, a substance that didn't exist in nature before Chernobyl and has only been created 4 other times in history during nuclear meltdowns. When the reactor exploded, uranium fuel rods melted, and that molten uranium mixed with concrete, sand, steel, zirconium, and the combined mass burned through 2 meters of reinforced concrete. It ate through floors and flowed like lava. 11 tons of it, still hot, still intensely radioactive. At the time of its discovery, standing near it for about 300 seconds would have been lethal. 2 minutes meant near certain death, and 30 seconds was enough to cause severe radiation sickness weeks later. That photograph most people have seen of it, blurry, grainy, taken from around a corner, it looks that way because the radiation itself was fogging the film. Even today, decades later, it still emits enough radiation to deliver a fatal dose after around 5 minutes of exposure. And it's not going anywhere. Corium does not break down quickly, so the elephant's foot will still be sitting in that basement, slowly irradiating the air around it long after everyone alive today is long gone. It's one of the only human-made objects on Earth that you simply cannot be near and survive. Number 2. Jeep time, the Grand Canyon. Stand at the rim of the Grand Canyon, and you're looking at 270 million years of rock. Walk down the Bright Angel Trail, and you move through limestone, sandstone, shale, each band a different era, a different sea. At the bottom, over a mile down, the inner gorge closes in. The rock turns dark and crystalline, twisted with pink granite veins. Touch it. You're touching something 1.8 billion years old. That number is meaningless to us, so hold on to it. The Vishnu schist formed before multicellular life existed, before animals, plants, bones, eyes. The first simple algae were emerging when these rocks were squeezed into existence by tectonic collisions. That process cooled, was buried under mountains now gone, eroded to sea level over 300 million years. Then seas covered them, then deserts, then more seas. Each layer remains stacked in the canyon walls, readable to anyone who knows the language. The Grand Canyon isn't just a formation, it's a record. Nearly 2 billion years exposed by a river carving for only 5 or 6 million years, barely a blink. Then comes the Great Unconformity, a gap of 1.2 billion years visible in the canyon wall. Above the line, one set of rocks below, another far older. Between them, 1.2 billion years simply eroded away, as if someone tore out a third of the book. More time is missing than separates us from the last common ancestor of all animals. Why does this belong at number 1? Not the scale or beauty, but what happens to your sense of time when you hold that rock? You're holding a world that existed 1.8 billion years ago, no memory, no record, except that stone. A river spent 5 million years cutting through a mile of geology, to put it in your reach. Humans were never meant to see this. Nothing capable of understanding it was supposed to exist when it formed. That we can stand here, hold this rock, and know what it is that is possibly the strangest thing on this entire list. Number 1. Pripyat, the city that stopped in time. A city of about 50,000 people. Schools, hospitals, supermarkets, a football stadium, a fairground with a brand new Ferris wheel. A city where the average resident is 26 years old, where children are in school on Tuesday morning, and where an amusement park is scheduled to open in 4 days for May Day celebrations. Now, imagine that same city completely empty, not demolished, not bombed, just empty. Every apartment still has furniture. Schools still have books open on desks. A swimming pool still sits full of water, its changing rooms still lined with lockers. And the amusement park never opened. The Ferris wheel just sat there rusting slowly for the next 4 decades. This is Pripyat, Ukraine, and it's been frozen in the morning of April 27, 1986. Ever since the night before reactor number 4 at the nearby Chernobyl nuclear power plant exploded. But Soviet authorities didn't immediately tell the residents of Pripyat what happened. For 36 hours, the city continued operating normally. Children played outside. People walked to work. Some residents even gathered on a bridge to watch the strange glow from the direction of the plant. A bridge later nicknamed the Bridge of Death, though that name was never officially confirmed. When the evacuation order finally came, officials told the residents to pack for 3 days. They said it was temporary. They said they would be back. They were never allowed to return. 1,200 buses arrived and removed the entire population in 3 hours. The city was sealed off inside what became known as the exclusion zone, a 30-kilometer radius around the plant where nobody was permitted to live. What's left there is one of the most genuinely haunting places on the planet. Nature has been slowly reclaiming it for nearly 40 years. Trees grow through the apartment floors, foxes sleep in school corridors, and the swimming pool is filled with debris. And that Ferris wheel, it still turns just barely when the wind catches it. This is a city that was never meant to be abandoned, preserved the exact moment it was. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.